Sierra, do you have any Asian friends? Like, no, really, Sierra, do you have any Asian friends? Because it's obvious you don't when you keep using Asian slurs on Instagram, on social media, for almost 1 million people to see, which, by the way, have been proven that most of your followers are fake. The person who's managing your social media account, she's not doing a great job. She's been buying your fake followers because it's clear that she's not a fan favorite. On the show, it's very clear that not only is she a mean girl, she's also fake. Outside of the show, it's proven that she's a racist and just all around a shitty person who buys her followers, buys 500,000 followers. She's just a fake person. You know, I don't follow Sierra, but I do go to her Instagram page after an episode to check who's still who am I following and is still following her. Glad to report that half the girls who did follow her unfollowed her after this episode, but I'm still very disappointed to see lots of people of color who I follow still following her. Y'all are not an ally. Especially seeing the other Asian girls that I'm following follow her. Like, are y'all not caught up on the episode yet? Are y'all not caught up on the tea? Maybe they're just not as avid as me, but I don't know. Love Island's one of those shows where the episode releases and you watch it. By the way, it's been long enough for people to realize that she's a fake. So if you're still following Sierra, about time I unfollow you.
So you know how Sierra from Love Island only got kicked off because there was such a big backlash online? Well, did you guys see the statement that her parents put out? So her parents on Sierra's Instagram account put up a story, and it doesn't even start out good. They literally write, "This has been one of the most painful weeks of our lives." They barely condemn anything that she did other than the fact that she said that she should take responsibility in her own time. And then they keep centering themselves where they literally write, "But what's happening online right now has gone far beyond that." And then if it wasn't predictable, they talk about how there's threats and cruel messages and attacks on her family and her friends, even her supporters. It's heartbreaking. It's uncalled for. And no one deserves that kind of hate, no matter what mistake they made. I mean, it's very obvious that her parents think that it's just a harmless word. It was just like something that she shouldn't have said, but like it didn't do anyone any harm. So let me tell you about a story about how I almost lost my life one time because someone called me a chink. So I was about 8 or 9 years old, about like 3rd or 4th grade, and I was walking home from elementary school when this middle school kid came up to me, called me a chink, grabbed me by the arms, twirled me around, and then threw me head first into a metal garage. And when I went to the doctor literally said that I was lucky, so lucky, because he said that if I had just hit my head a little bit differently, I would have broken my neck and could have become paralyzed or have died. So no, that terminology isn't just like some ignorant thing that people should be forgiven for. It's literally steeped in hatred and leads towards violence of Asian people. So yeah, obviously this shouldn't happen, but this is fucking gross, and get some fucking self-awareness, you ignorant fucks.
I know a lot of people have been waiting for me to speak up about the news that's come to light recently, and now that I've been back in the US for about 48 hours and I've had the chance to process, I now feel like I'm at a space where I can speak about this without being highly emotional, because I am not the victim in this situation. While I was in the villa, there were some posts that resurfaced from my past where I was very naively using an incredibly offensive and derogatory term. And before I get into the details, I want to first start by addressing not just anyone that I have hurt or deeply offended, but most importantly, the entire Asian community. I am deeply, truly, honestly so sorry. I had no idea that the word held as much pain, as much harm, and came with the history that it did, or I never would have used it. I had no ill intention when I was using it, but that's absolutely no excuse, because intent doesn't excuse ignorance. It just doesn't. And I just need you to know that I am so sorry. But this is not an apology video. This is an accountability video. I do want to hold my hands up and say that I take accountability for using the word, but I do want it to be known that I genuinely had no idea that it was a slur. I had no idea of its meaning, and it wasn't until I made the public story post in 2024 when a follower of mine reached out to correct me and let me know that what I was saying was incredibly hurtful. It was a derogatory term. It was a slur. And in that moment, I was embarrassed. I, of course, immediately deleted the post. I was apologetic, and I educated not only myself on the true meaning and the history of the word, but also anyone around me who was accidentally holding space for this slur. When this person did message me, which I'm so grateful that she did, I had a good conversation with her about it. I made the correction immediately. The word was immediately removed from my vocabulary. And I think right now there are tons of things floating around, different screenshots with different timestamps, and fueling this narrative that I sort of doubled down once people tried to correct me and was like, oh, like, I don't know, I'm still gonna use it. But that was not the case. Like, the truth is that in that moment, the lesson was learned, the word was removed, and it was a true learning moment for me. And I think since that moment, I've done so much growing as an individual, and I've tried my best to educate others who might be accidentally holding space for these types of words that could be offensive in their vocabulary. I completely agree with the network's decision to remove me from the villa. I think that this is something that deserved punishment, and the punishment has absolutely been received for sure. I think the backlash has obviously been very hard to deal with, but I understand that people are kind of confused on why I would have even said it, or why I would have been doubling down and continuing to use it. So I understand where the hate is coming from. And, you know, I can do my best to drown out the noise and pay attention to the truth. But what's been extremely, extremely difficult is the way people are approaching my family and my loved ones. You know, they have had ICE called on them. My family doesn't feel safe in their own home. I'm receiving death threats. Like, there's no need to fight hate with hate. I don't think that that's justice. And if you want to know that you're heard and that I'm sorry and that I will move differently, I promise you that's what will happen. I know that no apology could ever be enough for the harm that I've caused and the offense that's taken place. I know that moving forward, my actions and how I decide to live my life from here on out is gonna speak louder than any apology ever could. But I do need it to be known that I am sorry and I did mean no harm, and hopefully there are people out there that can use my mistake as a learning moment, and to just be better, because that's what I'm gonna do. I'm gonna take today and tomorrow, and I'm gonna take strides to be better. And all I can ask for is, even if you won't give me forgiveness, if you can just allow me to grow with grace. And hopefully, instead of sitting here and trying to convince you that I am this amazing person who spreads light in the world and celebrates cultures and dynamics and backgrounds, then one day you can see that from me. I'm deeply sorry again, and I thank anyone who's listening.
So in this video, I want to talk about fans react to removal of Cierra Ortega from Love Island, cast after previous use of racial slur. Over 17K individuals signed a Change.org petition after resurfaced post showed Cierra Ortega, a season 7 cast member of Love Island, using a racial slur. She was eventually removed from the series, and social media users discussed her removal. Her parents put out a statement asking commenters to give Cierra grace. There were social media posts where the slur was used. One post dates back to 2015. A lot of fans made comments. Here's a comment from Queen Yennefer. What happened to Cierra was definitely a learning opportunity for me. I did not grow up knowing that the C word was a slur. Please don't use my tweet to spew hate. If you're not the affected community, who are you to tell them what to be offended by? If you didn't know it was offensive, now you do. You learn and you grow into better people. Lastly, we're living in a society where there's a widespread erasure of history, especially in schools for political reasons. So it is not uncommon for people to not know that this word is a slur. Another comment said, O'Shea the baddest said, it is very tone deaf to say Cierra's removal from the show isn't fair. She offended a group of people, was removed just like Yulissa. Telling the Asian community that they are overreacting is never nasty. Why should they have to watch someone who has repeatedly offended them? Kimberly said, whatever friends Cierra still got left, please don't leave that girl alone by herself. Jesus, I'm all for accountability and part of it is deserved, but my God, please call that girl every day. Hag Lover said, as an Asian person, I don't like how they dealt with the Cierra situation at all. I don't even like Cierra, but you guys are so performative and gross for taking it this far. This person said, I think people defended Cierra by saying that the slurs she said was not that serious are showing their true colors. The normalization of racism towards Asian people is disgusting. Slurs should not be compared no matter what community they are towards. Racism is racism. Sade said the fact that somebody screenshotted Cierra's story and harbored it so they can get a moment like this is insane. I'm looking at them crazy more than her. Sion said no shade, but why didn't Nick leave with Cierra that has been your girl this whole time? Masson Lee IJ said, I'm honestly in disbelief that social media got Cierra kicked out of the villa. This was truly an unfortunate situation that she could have grown from. She did not need to be removed from the show. Yaz said, I'm not defending nor excusing whatever Cierra did or said, but the lack of consideration for that girl and her mental health is absolutely insane to me, and the producers are dead wrong for that. Her family had wrote a statement on Instagram about their opinion on what happened to her on Love Island. As Cierra's parents, this has been one of the most painful weeks of our lives. We've seen the posts, the headlines, the hurt, and the hate. And while Cierra hasn't seen any of it yet, we have, and so have the people who love her. We're not here to justify or ignore what surfaced. We understand why people are upset, and we know accountability matters, but what's happening online right now has gone far beyond that. The threats, the cruel messages, the attacks on her family, her friends, even her supporters, it's heartbreaking. It's uncalled for, and no one deserves that kind of hate, no matter what mistakes they've made. While Cierra is not in the villa anymore, she is still away. She hasn't had the chance to process any of this or speak for herself, but we know our daughter, we know her heart, and when she returns, we believe she'll face this with honesty, growth, and grace. While she'll always be our little girl, she's also a woman, one who will take responsibility in her own time and her own voice. Until then, we're simply asking for compassion, for patience, for basic human decency, not just for her, but for everyone caught in the middle of this. Thank you to those who continue to show love, even when it's not easy. With love, her family. So I'm going to be honest about this. I'm not a fan of the Love Island franchise, and one, because I'm not really into reality TV like that, and two, I heard a lot of bad things in the past about this show. I heard from people of color on YouTube making videos about how this show has a lot of racism and colorism on it, and I said, with all the racism and colorism allegations that happened on the show, it made me not want to watch it. And I decided to do a video about this because, this story went viral. And for all of y'all that have been following me for a long time, you know that I have spoke up about colorism and racism, anti-blackness in the Latino community. And I just found out the girl Cierra. I just found out about a girl from this season 7, a Latina named Cierra Ortega, and I had to Google her. And Google says that she is Mexican and Puerto Rican. And I will say that this isn't anything new. There's a lot of, like I said, there's a lot of color in the Latino community. It's like a lot of Latinos, they're not just anti-black, but they're also anti-Asian too. And I know that we've been talking about colorism for years, and like in the past, people ignored it, but I feel like now, in 2025, it's getting better. And a lot of Latino, they finally calling out colorism for what it is. I will say that I don't know anything about the girl. I never watched the show, but from what I've read on social media and what I've Googled and read from articles on Google, I will say that this girl, she said racist slurs about Asian people. She used the C word several times. These posts, I think they said it was from back in 2015. In 2015, which was 10 years ago. And somebody, I don't know who, was somebody decided to screenshot it and post it, and the producers from the Love Island series decided to quietly, dismiss her and send her home. After that, they, explained it to the people in the villa, and then, of course, they told it to us because, it would have been weird if they didn't address it, because everybody would have been like, well, why did Cierra leave? Like, where's Cierra? And, I believe that they did the right choice by, letting her go, because racism shouldn't be tolerated on the show. And I'm pretty sure that Love Island has a lot of Asian fans and supporters, and they had to let her go because they didn't want to lose a fan base, or they didn't want to lose Asian fans, I would say. A lot of people were saying how well, it was only 10 years ago, so it shouldn't matter. And then some people was like, oh, that was a long time ago, she's probably changed, she might not feel the same way, which it could be true. A lot of people, they are ignorant, when they're younger, and then when they live and learn, they change. And we don't know if she changed, but I know she did have a Asian friend that was also in the in this season. I believe her name was Isabella. But after Isabella saw the racist post, she followed her on Instagram. She's not the only one, because somebody else also got deleted. I think her name was Yulissa Escobar. She had said some racial slurs too. And Yulissa is also Latino. And she got kicked out of the villa earlier in the season for using the N-word. And so I find it interesting that in this season that, we had two Latinos that were being, racist. One was anti-black and one was anti-Asian. And like I said, that, this is common in the Latino community. Nothing new, but it's a problem that a lot of Latinos don't like to address. And, I hope that both Yulissa and Cierra will learn from their mistakes. And when it comes to Cierra and Yulissa, they can learn, if you don't have nothing nice to say, then don't say nothing at all. And you need to be careful on what you do and say on social media. For example, Cierra, somebody, I don't know if it was like a hater or somebody that just was, trying to dig up her history, but somebody had, found these old tweets and they decided to post them for, the world to see. Same with Yulissa. She had a old video of her saying the N-word. It resurfaced and, she got booted off too. And I would say that be careful what you post on social media, because somewhere down the line, somewhere in the future, that it might come back and bite you in the butt. Both of Yulissa was beautiful and Cierra was beautiful. Both beautiful women, and it's unfortunate that they had to leave, but it's understandable why they left, and racism shouldn't be tolerated. And I have found it interesting that that they Cierra, she was they went to Fiji and they were living in a villa in Fiji. And Fiji is an island nation in the South Pacific Ocean. It's northeast of Australia and north of New Zealand. So Sarah, she had got invited to travel to this Pacific Islander nation. It's kind of comical that she was got picked to be on Love Island, and she got to travel to a Pacific nation. Pacific Islanders are there, and Pacific Islanders Asian. And I said that right there was probably one of the reasons why, because she was on a in an Asian country, and they had Asian viewers too, talking about how she lost but she had like 900K, almost 1 million, and it's now like 700K. And I was like, wow. And I said, I was like, I don't know if the followers, were Asian or they were like other races like me that don't agree with, people using racial slurs. And I don't feel bad that, she got booted off the show, but I do feel bad, that people are, harassing her or sending, threats to her and stuff. And hopefully after all of this blows over, she, people check on her, like she has friends, somebody check on her. Maybe she might need someone to talk to, some therapy, because people are bullying her, but I mean, what do you expect? She was being a bully, and the possibility that she didn't know it was a racial slur, but because I was on Instagram, and I was on a page that was like for black people, and like most of the people are Black Americans, and most of them were saying how, oh, I didn't know that was a racial slur. And I had seen a comment from one lady saying, oh, I didn't know it was a racial slur. I've been using that since, forever. And then some people were like, where's the racial slur? And they didn't think that was a racial slur. And some people, they weren't educated to know. And I know some people were saying, how, they just being sensitive, and it's not sensitive, like how Asians, they don't like the C word. And like the C word is offensive to them, just like the N word is offensive to black people. And, the 4-letter S word is offensive to Latinos. Every group has, their own racial slur that they hate, and it should not be used. And, it's never tolerated. And, Asians, they deserve respect. And, the producers, like I said, the producers, they did the right thing by letting her go. Just like they did the right thing by letting Yulissa go. And I want to read this post about what happened with Yulissa Escobar. Love Island USA's Yulissa Escobar tells real story of how she was kicked off of the show over racial slurs. The 27-year-old shared details from the first time about how she quietly departed the villa in the second episode. Yulissa Escobar was among the first batch of islanders to step into the Fiji villa for Love Island USA Season 7 last month, but she quietly exited the villa in the second episode after video resurfaced online of her using racial slurs. Now, Yulissa, 27, sharing a new detail about how she was told she had to leave the show and how her exit was handled. She previously issued an apology and took responsibility for the insensitive comments. The 27-year-old was among the first group of islanders who entered the Fiji villa in the Season 7 premiere, but she was removed quietly from the show in the second episode without much explanation from Peacock. Her exit was the result of resurfaced videos of her using racial slurs, including the N-word, on 2 separate podcast appearances. Since her exit, Yulissa has not expanded on the logistics of how she left the villa or what she was told until now. It started off as a regular day in the villa before she was called away by a producer. In a TikTok video, Yulissa admitted that she can't share certain things, but I will share the majority of what happened to set the record straight about her exit. So a day, I did not wake up in the middle of the night. They didn't get me in the effing morning. They didn't drag my A out of bed, she said. The day started with her partner, Ace Green, made her breakfast in the morning, and she had multiple conversations with islanders, including Taylor Williams, while the whole villa was awakening Cierra and Charlie's bombshell arrival. She said she was just starting to have fun when she was pulled out. Yulissa was called to the front and assumed it was for a confessional, but she was met by a producer instead, who asked her to take off her mic. I kind of figured something serious was happening, she recalled. I honestly got scared. I thought something was happening with a family member or something. I didn't know what was going on. They didn't really tell me anything. They just said, a video resurfaced on the internet and it's not looking too good. They didn't specify what the video in question was, though, so she was confused. Honestly, I wasn't even crying or anything. I just wanted to know what was going on. After 2 days in a Fiji hotel, she got her phone back and learned what the internet had seen. She said she was losing my effing mind because I didn't know what was going on while in the hotel without access to her phone, because at that point she still didn't know what video the producers were referring to. Yulissa issued a public apology for her use of the racial slur in the days following her exit. In a lengthy Instagram post on June 6, Yulissa said she wanted to address it directly and apologize for using a word I had no right in using. In those clips, I used a word I never should have used, a racial slur. I used it arrogantly, not fully understanding the weight, history, or pain behind it, she wrote. I wasn't trying to be offensive or harmful, but I recognize now that intention doesn't excuse impact, and the impact of the word is real. It's tied to generations of trauma, and it is not mine to use. Escobar explained that when she did the podcast, she was speaking casually in conversation, not thinking deeply or critically about what I was saying. But that doesn't take away from how wrong it was. The truth is, I didn't know better then, but I do now. I've taken the time to reflect, to learn, and to grow from that moment. So that was an interview from People's Magazine. Yulissa stating how sorry she was and how, it wasn't okay to use the N-word and stuff. And, in her words, she sounds like she's really, really sorry, and she's learned her lesson, and she's learned not to use that word again because it's an awful word that she shouldn't be using. In my opinion, I don't think nobody should be using the word. Zach still follows her on Instagram, and when she finally posted an apology video about what happened and how she didn't mean what she had said in the tweets. And Zach had came into the comment section to support her, and he said, I spent some time with Cierra, guys. Honestly, she was so lovely with the time we did talk. Of course, seeing the comments made me question things, but she's human after all, and we all make mistakes. She's a great girl deep down, so from a fellow Asian, give her this grace and let it be a learning curve to study certain words before using them. Cierra, you're a great person. I hope you learn from this and move forward. Sending love.
How did Cierra leave? So I can't really say, but when Cierra left, they gathered us all together. The producers gathered us all together, and then they said, unfortunately, Cierra has broken some of the policies of our guidelines. She'll no longer be here in the villa, and that's the only information we can give you guys. So when we was all in there, we didn't really know what was going on, but that's the only thing they said to us. And if we needed somebody to speak to, go speak to them. But yeah, Nick was really upset that she left, but at the same time, he couldn't really be super upset, or he couldn't express how he feels about the situation until he found out what she's done or what she's said. Because at the end of the day, as much as you want to feel sorry for somebody, if they got removed from a show for saying something offensive, you can't really feel sorry for them until you know what it is. You know what I'm saying?
And that's all I have to say about this. So please tell me, do you think that Love Island made the right decision by sending Cierra home? Do you think that she deserved forgiveness? Do you think Cierra changed her opinions on Asians since 2015? Please comment and tell me what you think about this video. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. And I'll see you in the next video. Ciao.